All right, we're here with Garin Carpenter. What's up, Garin?
Hey, what's up, Sean? Good to see you, bud.
Good to see you. It's been a long, long, long time, man. It's great to see your face.
Sure has, sure is.
So you were in Seattle now, correct?
Yeah, so I've been in Seattle since late 2012. My last stop was my last stop in hospitality, and that was in San Diego. Yeah, so San Diego to Seattle, right up the West Coast.
Well, then that's what we're going to get into. So, how did your hospitality career start? 'Cause it wasn't in San Diego, right? Was it in Vegas, or did you start before then?
Ironically, it started in San Diego before Vegas and then ended in San Diego. So the way that worked is I got out of the Navy. So I'm a veteran, and I stepped off the ship. And luckily, I had friends. I was at my last duty station was Naval Station North Island, and 32nd Street Naval Station right there in San Diego. And so I it was like off the dock with my sea bag, my friends in San Diego. I'm originally from Southern California. My friends were living in San Diego. They pick me up. They take me to their house in Pacific Beach. I don't necessarily remember that first, like, maybe almost week that I was with them. They definitely took care of me.
That sounds like PB.
Definitely. And I was crashing on their couch, and the couch cushions were almost in like a shape of a W. Think about like the peak of that W in like your lower back. And then I started thinking about what the bottom parts of the W were made by, and that my face was like too close to that for comfort. So I knew that I had to get off that couch ASAP. And and so, I stepped out onto, we were living on Grand Avenue at the time in Pacific Beach. I stepped out onto Grand, and I knew that like one direction was into the bars. I could go be a bar back, or like a busser, or a server. And then the other direction was this hotel called Paradise Point Resort right there in Mission Bay. It's on a little island in Mission Bay. And I said, what the hell? I'm going to go over there. I walked into the HR department. There was a few different jobs available, and one of them was a front desk agent. And other than checking into a hotel, I didn't really understand what a front desk agent did, but ended up interviewing. Had a great interview. They liked the idea of welcoming a newly transitioned veteran, into their team, and that started an almost 12-year hospitality career. And, it's so worked there for a little while. And then actually a really great story. The W Hotel opened up in San Diego, and it was one of the very first like handful of W's in the world that opened at that time. And so a friend of mine who owns a bar, Mina Desdario, she owns the local downtown as well as the local in Pacific Beach. She at that time said, "Hey, Garin, I know you're liking, working down in Pacific Beach, but I've been to this brand before, and I think you would be a great fit for this like more boutique brand." Sure enough, it was a great fit. I was a front desk agent there as well as a concierge, and learned a lot from a lot of really, really great people, passionate about hospitality, passionate about W's, whatever, whenever mentality. Really loved the kind of service level that allowed us to provide our guests. And ended up meeting that at that time a fellow named Hector Moreno. And Hector was the director of front office at the Hard Rock in Las Vegas. And you know how those things happen, like one thing led to another. He had a vacancy, his next visit in San Diego, he kind of planted the seed, and I followed up on it. And that led me to Las Vegas, where I met you, buddy. So from 2005 to 2010, I was in Las Vegas at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino. And let me just say, like, I know that there were a lot of good years before that. I know that there were a lot of good years after that, but 2005 to 2010 was just bonkers. Especially those first 2 years when, Peter Morton still owned the hotel. We had Harry coming in. We were only 1 year, I think, removed from, I think I was there the first year rehab even had wristbands at it. So like, like when Chad and all y'all did all that stuff, it was like so brand new. And Sean had his Louis Vuitton haircut, and you had frosted tips, probably, didn't we all? And, it was just a very exciting time. I had never worked or been in a city or in a hospitality situation where your business card got you into industry night at Pier on Tuesdays, and then there was one on Wednesdays, and then, so it was an exciting time for a young single fella in Las Vegas. So, that ran its course. Peter did, or I forget who the company at this point, like, did that sort of kind of, haphazard remodel and expansion, and things just never quite felt the same after that. And a couple things fell on their face a little bit there. And, I knew that I wanted to get back to California at that time. So kind of like how it happened going from San Diego to Vegas. So it went going from Vegas to back to San Diego. And so, and that was a fellow named Matt Green. He was putting together a team. He was reinvigorating a team at the San Diego Hard Rock, was looking for some people that he worked with before. I was one of those people, and took the opportunity to take a job out there. It was a big job. It was my first director position. If I'm looking back and being completely honest with myself, which I think is super important in these moments, I probably took a bigger job than I was qualified for. And I think Matt looked at me as somebody that could probably learn faster than I could fail. And, I didn't all the time. And so what that actually led to another great opportunity. I decided that, full honesty, I think we mutually decided that, there was probably somebody that could come in there and do the job in a bit more of a complete way. And ended up going across the road to a large convention hotel as an assistant director, which I think definitely was a nicer fit as far as like, skill level at that point. And, learned a lot about large format hospitality in those moments, and corporate Hilton versus, Hard Rock, and the differences there. And that led me to my first convention sales job, which I really, really enjoyed. And, after a while, as passions go different directions, or when maybe a little bit of age and wisdom come into the mix and help you understand what's like really important to you, I knew I had to make a change. I knew that the 24-hour hospitality clock, when you're talking about front office operations, was just, I was seeking a little bit more live life work balance. And I started seeking out opportunities that would give me that. And in those early moments, they ran the gamut. They were like, I was all over the place. First, it was like companies, like, I love North Face, I love Patagonia, I love Arc'teryx. So I'm like, reaching out to them, and it ended up leading to REI, the Recreational Equipment Co-op. And, I of course knew about it. I had been a member for many years. I started looking online, and, on the job boards, as kind of everybody's first stop is. And really, there was nothing there for me. And I kind of, like, to be honest, I kind of gave up. I was like, I love the outdoors. I love backpacking. I love all of this stuff. I love travel. But, I just I was like, well, maybe hospitality is my destiny. It's what I'm just going to do. And then as many of us come to it that have made transitions like this, like, burnout is real. Like when you've given it a pretty good go, or let's be honest, like a half-ass go at getting out, and it doesn't work, you're like, man, I suck, or there's nothing ever's going to come for me, or, and then you like, but what does that sound like? It sounds like apathy. It sounds like laziness. And then you start like doubting yourself. Like, do I not have the drive at this point to like rip myself from the clutches of hospitality to get to where I want to be? And so I did what I would encourage everybody to do, which is I reached out to my support system, professional mentors, friends, my then girlfriend, who's now my wife, and my grandma. And I, as we were, in a little bit of the intro talk, as I told you, like I got the best piece of advice from my grandma, and it was, figure out what you would pay to do, and find somebody to pay you to do it. And so I really doubled down my efforts. I did some. I really got to the core of what my passion is, which is I was working to save up money for gear and plane tickets and and other logistics money to go on adventure travel. Right. So I started looking, who are the players in adventure travel? You've got Backroads and Intrepid and G Adventures and all of these big players all over the country. And I'm like, I'm going to move again. I'm going to go try to work for one of these big players. And then one of that popped up was REI Adventures, the travel company that is nested inside the co-op. It's, and I didn't even know it existed at that time. And, started doing some outreach, put a couple of job alerts on the job board. And then out of the blue, it was a Friday and I was in San Diego at the time, and alert came up and it said, manager of customer service and sales for REI Adventures. And I was like, well, I'm not going to get my hopes up because this is REI. Everybody, everybody in the space wants to work at REI. They're a huge player. And I applied online, what thousands, hundreds of thousands of people are doing right now, right? So if there's one thing that I can say, don't give up hope. You're just because you press enter and you're cynical about what could come from that. I know it's a bit of a different time right now. There's a lot of more people doing that than there may have been back in 2012, but that's how it worked for me. So I applied. I got a response. Like that Monday, I had a phone screen that Tuesday or Wednesday. They flew me up the next week to Seattle. I interviewed in person. And within about another week, I had this job that I've been doing for 8 years, the job that, if my old Garin having the same title for 8 years, I'd be pretty bummed. But I feel like, you make what you want out of the position that you're in. And if you're passionate about it, then, you can make a lot of things happen inside of a position, even inside of a big company. And, I think we had 1,800 travelers that first year that I was there. And in 2019, we had almost 16,000. So the ability to shepherd a 20-year-old travel company inside of an 80-year-old consumer co-op, and the kind of battles you have to fight to get an older company to adopt newer methodologies in sales and management. It's tough, but if you can enjoy stuff like that, I mean, it was an awesome adventure for me. So, Sean, I hope that wasn't too much, but that's soup to nuts, my path out of hospitality.
Yeah, that was awesome. I love that story. I love your grandmother's quote. I mean, it is like, find something that you would spend money to do and find someone who will pay you to do it. Like that's everyone should live by that. I absolutely love that.
Yeah. And it's, recognizing that, that's some privilege talking to. I do feel fortunate that I was able to find out. I know it's not always true. And we do have to sometimes make deals with ourselves. Like, it's not what I love, but it's what will get me to my next. It's what will grow me as a person. It's what will make me uncomfortable in those moments. I think about, in those moments of vulnerability where I was talking about that I probably got myself into a job that I was a little bit over my head in. The lessons that I took from that I still use to this day. And I think if you like take some of those failures and you own them, you keep them real close. It's like, it'll keep your fire smoldering. It'll keep your fire in when you need it to burn bright, because you know that you don't want to go back to that, or that it was hard to hear from like a previous mentor that you're not cutting it, and so like that's one of those things where I think like when we make those deals with ourselves, if we concentrate on what's important to us, we'll always come out winning.
But just like you said, you were applying all these places and you kind of got discouraged and hitting, and then you kind of rethought about it and you like doubled down on it and kept applying those places. And then, like I said, look at you now, your perfect job popped up and, within 2 weeks you had it.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know whose quote this is. So maybe somebody out there in podcast land can look it up. But, I think that they say that like good things happen over time, but great things happen all at once, and that's something that, that I really think is true. And the other one that I would put out there into the world for people seeking to get out of hospitality, or at least to find something that they're passionate about, is like fortune favors the bold. And fortune doesn't always mean money, right? So it's like fortune favors the bold. I don't know if it was Plato or something that said that, but like, it's true. Like, risk is inherent in great things. You have to take risk in order to do something great. I can't think of a single, like, when we look at the titans of industry out there, those mega billionaires, or you look at Warren Buffett, it's like, you do have to, there's inherent risk in everything. You do what you can to limit it, but at some point where the rubber meets the road, you're just going to have to make a decision. And sometimes those decisions take you from sunny, beautiful, all the time San Diego to rainy, cloudy, sunny sometimes Seattle.
I didn't even think about that climate change that you went through. Because San Diego's gorgeous every day. And yes, yeah.
I'm still not used to it. Yeah. So like, grew up in Manhattan Beach, California, went to UC Santa Barbara, moved to, went into the Navy, then ended up in San Diego, then went to Vegas, then went to San Diego, then Seattle, Washington. It was a mofo of a like acclimatization.
I'm sure REI styles you out in some good rain gear, though. I'm sure you're good.
Well, as we say around these parts, there is no such thing as bad weather, just bad gear.
That's a great quote. I love REI, like we were talking about. I'm a huge advocate of REI myself.
Yeah, it's good. It's good stuff, man.
Dude, I love it. What do you think was like your favorite part about working in hospitality? Like when you were in it, and what was your least favorite part about working in it?
Well, let's end good. All right. So we'll start with what my least. Yeah. We'll start with what my least favorite was.
Bad news first.
The bad news first is for a period of, call it 7 or 8 years, right? Of 10 or 12. So really like, not, or 10 or 11, not like the lion's share of my time. I didn't know when my next day off was. Right. So like, if it was 2 days, they were always split. You make that money on the weekend. So the weekend you were always there. You were constantly on here's that age part again, your BlackBerry, or then your device. Like, you're at dinner with friends on your off time and you get a buzz in your pocket. You got to look at that because, who knows, pipes could have burst on the 4th floor and everybody in 2, 3, and 4 now needs to be relocated. Right. So, I think that was just the worst part. Like the inability to have quality time in whatever my pursuit was at that moment. And even looking in, and that's the macro. Looking at the micro, it's like when you're looking at event resumes or pool events or big concerts or whatever it is, and looking at all of that to dictate when you can have time for yourself. And that's just to me, that's the worst part. It's just like it never allowed me to connect to my passions the way that I wanted to. And now that I've been out of that world for a while, the way that I realized that I need to. So like moving on to the best part, the people. Like the people that we worked with. I think, Sean, about like, as we were leading up to this, I was thinking about like our work friendship, right? And that, you were either out at the pool or down in Body English or, helping, the Corey McCormicks of the world do this or that, helping the Andy Hirsches of the world do this or that, and so like, I think about all of the people that I came in contact with and just like the creativity, the coolness, like, when y'all were wearing those big knotted tied, like it was like, man, how do they even get their tie knots that big? Those guys are so cool, and how do they get their frosted tips that bleached? Man, those guys are so cool. And so like, I was just like, I was really taken aback by the people and just the level of smarts. Like, you think of like Yale Rowe or Matt Green or Hector Moreno, Randy Kwasniewski. You think of all those individuals, Carrie Messina, you remember her?
Yeah.
Like you think about all these individuals and their brain enters a meeting room a minute before they do. And so like a goofball like me gets in front of them and like my only defense is like sarcasm and humor, like, and so like, like I'm certainly not gonna bang with them like in the like intellect or IQ like octagon. So, I just all the ways, all the little things that you pick up through just really, really smart, really, really driven people like that. I'll never like HRH fam all day, every day. It's like we were truly like a family, figuring out what rehab meant, figuring out how you could make $1 million at a pool in a day. Like all that stuff was just really exciting. And I still miss, people that I worked with at every stop along the way.
That's awesome, man. I love that. And it's funny you talk about Hard Rock, like the heyday of like 2005 to 10. I was there from 99 to 2010. And I mean, it was just incredible. I came there 23 years old and just the celebrities, the action, like always busy, the hottest place in the world. I mean, it was nuts. And I talked to so many people still, like you said, the Hard Rock family, like we're all still family. I haven't seen people in, we can talk to each other right now. Like we saw each other yesterday.
Yeah. Social media, good, bad, and ugly. But I'll tell you, like you and I, like all up, probably wouldn't be connected right now if it wasn't for social media. And like I still get to understand where people are at and in their lives. And yeah, it is a little vicarious. You don't get to say what's up or, give them a hug in the morning or whatever. But, it is like, I'll never be able to repay you all. And I think that's really what like, as I get a little bit older and I use the things that I was taught in those moments by those people that I mentioned, and I'll like never be able to repay them. And then you go back, and the reason why they are so awesome is they're not expecting it. And so like, I'm so thankful that they were in my lives for however long they were. And I try to think like, I still quote stuff from like Angie Dobney, formerly Angie Davis. And, I think about all those names that we worked with for so long, and I use those lessons to this day. So, I mean, that's what I'm thankful for. That's what I miss the most, the people.
I love that, man. And it really goes a long way, that camaraderie you have with like your work family. You go to battle, you go through so many trials and so many challenges with each other, it really holds a special bond that you don't get just by hanging out with like random people you meet up at a bar here and there or whatever.
Yeah, we talk about, we talk about like themes like that to this day, that like, the idea of like shared scars, right? And that like, gosh, I think about all of them. Like when Peter sold the hotel, we had a shared scar. When Randy died, we passed away, we had a shared scar. When it, towards the end of like the rehab heyday, when it got more about the money and less about like where it came from, right? Like we had that shared scar. We saw it sort of like unravel before our eyes. And, COVID, the current global pandemic, that has just totally decimated the travel business. As we were talking about earlier, I had to lay off 50% of my staff. It was the worst professional day of my life. Seriously. But the thing is that for those whom remain, what we've seen through like measurable outputs, like an employee survey and just the ongoing one-on-ones and connections, is that the idea of having this shared scar, we got through it and we got through it together. It's a powerful thing. It really is. Whether you're talking about your partner, your professional acquaintances, your friends, your family, and the best ones, your family, like we all have different shared scars in that way.
Yeah, I know 100%. I mean, the bond, think about like opening a new nightclub on New Year's Eve night, the stress of painting the walls when there's 1,000 people outside and, like loading everything in and getting it all ready, like New Year's Eve weekend, Memorial weekend, Labor Day weekend, the rehab. Like,
yeah.
When you have 10,000 people waiting, like we went to battle. It was like us, a small staff of, 20, 30 people against 10,000 people. Like,
and like,
together.
Yeah. And like, being willing in micro opportunities to like make whatever you were doing easier, you all would make what we were doing easier. It's like, yeah, we were all in it together. Like I can remember you flying, when you transitioned from like kind of a bartender to more of like a VIP host, and we're running in people and running out people. And if it was easier for you to get some big wig or some celebrity in through the hotel guest door, we were throwing wristbands at you. So you were all set. Yeah, man. And like, I think about like Shannon DuPont, right? Like, and all like, her group, her group of people, and like how much it was like two leaders meeting at the beginning of the day. She had, Jana Wester and that crew. I had like a bunch of like front desk people that were at the hotel, at the hotel desk, but we all met together at the beginning of the day. And, Shannon would go over what we could expect from their side. We'd go over what we could expect from their side. And it's just like that kind of care and attention to each other is definitely something that I try to duplicate now. Like try to live in your partners or who you're working with, your team's shoes, in order to create the best result. That's definitely like a tenet of hospitality that I've tried to take outside of hospitality. That's for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, you have to work together. We're one team, one dream.
That's it.
What was our motto? Love all, serve all.
Love all, serve all.
Yep. That's like you said, that's ingrained in my mind forever and ever and ever.
100%.
Now, if you can go back, what would you do differently? Or would you even do anything differently?
I think that's a great question. I'd do some things differently, but I wouldn't want, but if doing things differently created a different outcome, I would do them exactly the same. And so like, if I could go and tell, the younger version of myself that, being passionate and motivated, can't get in the way of like learning the skills required to get to the next level. I think about the times where like it was fake it until you make it until you made it. and then that one, well, there's probably more than one, but the big time where I couldn't fake it until I make it. I didn't make it, And so, I think like I'd go back and just say like, those same individuals who I was just talking about that had all this great skill and were so like good at their job. I wish I had paused a bit more to soak in a little bit more of that, and I think that that's what I would tell them, that you're going to encounter these really incredible people along the way, little Garin, and they are going to, and they are going to be willing to teach you, but they're not going to seek you out to teach you. You've got to seek their knowledge out. You've got to let them know why it's important to you to learn that. I feel like if I had done that a little bit more, instead of like, going, like doing my job, doing it well, but not seeking that next step, that like constant evolution of a skill set, that's what I would tell my younger self to do is really seek out this wisdom from these individuals, because I feel like I skipped some people that if I hadn't, I'd be in a better place right now.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, remember when I went from bar backing to management, I used to come in on my day off and train with Donnie Crowley.
Yeah.
For free. Obviously, it was my day off just to learn. And then when, management position came up at the Pink Taco after, 6-7 months of coming in on my day off training, once a week, whatever, he's like, okay, you're ready.
Well, let me turn this podcast around on you, Sean. Was that so like, people that didn't know that about you, because that's the first time that I heard that. Of course, I know Donnie, shiniest head in Las Vegas. It's people might look at that and say it's luck. So was that luck, Sean Charles Lee?
No, like I said, I sacrificed my day off to come in and do that. Like I said, I'd come in and work for free.
You know why? Because there's no such thing as luck. Luck is only where preparation meets opportunity. Yeah. And so it's like I feel like when I first got my job at REI Adventures, I feel like I was fighting against that perception sometimes that it was lucky, and while I didn't go in with, a member of the adventure travel world and learn the chops, what I did is I took the skills that I learned in hospitality and I edited them and molded them to the job description that they were looking for. And I think that that's something that, if I leave this podcast with getting one thing across about people that are toying with the idea or maybe have both feet out the door already, is the skills in hospitality are transferable. I mean, really, like in any industry. And though there are many, I'll concentrate on one real quick. And that's the ability to read people and meet them where they are. And believe me, I'm no hippy dippy person. But what I'm going to say might sound like it. Like sort of like meet them where at their vibration, right? We've got people. You meet people all over the world, all over your city. People who come into your bar, to your front desk, to your nightclub, and I think the most successful hospitality professionals hone the skill to kind of know how to meet somebody when they're still 12 feet away walking up. And if you can concentrate on just that and make sure that where you're interviewing, where you're providing a new service, wherever that is, that you're utilizing those skills, because, when you can connect with somebody, truly connect with them, the dynamic turns to them wanting to provide service to you. And even if they're a paying customer, if you can really get to some, like hit somebody on like a nail on the head, they're going to be like a nicer bar patron. They're going to be a nicer guest. They are going to be a nicer like traveler in my world. And I think it's something that it's a skill that I trade on every day to this day, is getting into a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting with people I've never met before, but kind of still being able to understand, like, kind of what their disposition is towards the conversation at hand, being able to meet them there, listen, make sure that you understand what they're asking you before you interject. These are all like core table stakes principles of hospitality. And I think that if the listeners or if folks out there just, fortune favors the bold. Get out there and do it. You don't know until you try. Follow the passion.
Absolutely. And it's funny talking about like being able to read people. I mean, think about when you're in hospitality that people come in super energized, like say they're bachelorette party, and they're ready to party. Like, hey guys, what's up? Like, hey, you doing it? Then you got like, the family conservatives that come in. Hi, we have a reservation. You can mirror those people and act, the fun group. Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to Vegas. Welcome to San Diego. Let's party. The guys, yes, we have a reservation right here. You got to mirror the other people. And, that's what you learn in hospitality.
1,000%, precisely what I was talking about. And that skill is directly transferable in anything that you would do external to hospitality. Hell, it's useful at the DMV. If you go up there and you've got that, I'm just making some broad stroke assumptions here, somebody that isn't after their passions behind the desk at the DMV, not calling DMV workers sad, let's just be clear. But like, if you can unlock someone like that, if you can unlock them and they, it turns into something that they want to do for you. So it's like, instead of, I'm sorry, you have to fill out this form, go sit back down in the chairs and take another number, right? It's, oh, don't worry about it. Just fill out the form right here at the desk, and that's something that, you learn in hospitality. You learn as a growing person in that industry. And I think anybody who's in the hospitality industry that's listening, and you, Sean, obviously we saw some epic flame outs in Las Vegas, right? Like people that came in from wherever they were from and came in with their frosted tips and their big knotted ties and whatever. And they were going to sell $500 bottles of vodka in a dark nightclub, right? I did it in New York. And if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere, right? But you could see these individuals just not being able to, they were just too slow on the uptake. They could not read that constant barrage of different kinds of people that would come at you rapid fire in Vegas. I think about those giant crowds of people that you were talking about out in front of Body English or Vanity or the Pool or whatever, the Joint, and you think about the folks with the radio earpiece in their ear, and they would walk up, somebody would walk up and they'd give them the mean mug. They wouldn't even give them the time of day, right? But then you look at the really, really successful ones. Maybe not the flashiest of ones with the Audi A8 and the shiny pointy shoes, but you look, you look at the ones that maybe are a little less flashy, but their receipts are through the roof because they get it. Who cares if they're in a brown three-piece suit with the collar over the jacket and that hadn't been stylish for years and years? Who cares if their suit still had 4 buttons on it and buttoned up to their collarbones? Sorry, man. Hey, from the front, think about where Body English was. And all y'all were so fashionable. So I'd be we'd have the cutting edge of fashion. All I gotta say is remember the haircuts?
Oh yeah.
Shaved on the side, flock of seagulls down the other side, spiky in the middle like alfalfa, various blotches of bleach. Cutting edge stuff.
Yeah, I remember when I got hired at Hard Rock, I had bright bleached hair. I mean, I was a surfer boy from California. I mean, my whole head was bleached. I look like a troll doll. My hair was just straight up. It was bleached.
Oh man, but it's all good times. And to be honest, anybody that this is my personality. That all comes with tons of love and tons of respect for the hard work that those individuals were doing. And I look at pictures of myself at that time and I'm like, what the fuck?
It's so funny talking about the four button suit. Like I had one, but I had to get suits. I'm like, all I had was a 4-button suit for like, weddings and funerals. And that wasn't the style anymore. I had to go out and buy like the 3-button suit.
Because if you had 4 buttons, who knows? You might not get your to the level of like receipts and bookings or that you needed, Sean. I mean, doesn't it sound like it was so important to us then?
Yeah.
And I think that that's what time and context does for you. It's like in those moments, it's stressful, and it's so important to look and act and have your performance match those two things. And it's like I look back and I said, like all of the and this is like, to me, like I'm speaking, as myself here. It's like the wasted energy. Right, like would I have been, and would I have been better served to taking the time that I worried about that to sit down with a Matt Green and ask for some development time and get into that like hospitality savant's head? You bet I would. If again, there's little Garin coming back. If I could, those are the kinds of things that I would like spend my time doing, that I would give my time to, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. I mean, especially in Vegas, everyone's driving BMW, Mercedes, wearing $1,000 suits, $1,000 a month car payments, and living in like a 1-bedroom apartment.
Yeah. Or like, yeah. I mean, it's like you think about, people just coming in. They get their like maybe not first taste, but maybe their kind of first taste of like crazy money. Right. And it's like they're spending money like a draft pick. It's going to last forever. Right. All of this stuff is going to last forever. And, I think about like, gosh, like I'll do my best not to mention names, but, one of the senior hosts, taking a chance at that burger stand. I think about you going downtown, and doing your thing for a couple of years there, 2-3 years. I forget what it was. There's a group that is bold in that who we're talking about, or like in hospitality. There's people that understand, and that it though it feels heavy and stressful right now, there is this other thing that my intent to be bigger is greater than the gravitational pull of the hospitality business, or how I see myself, or how I want to see myself. So if this was back then and we were at a podcast, if those things even existed, it's like, and you said, what does 15 years from now, like Garin, look like? I don't know that I would have answered it how I am right now, but I do know this, that where I am right now does speak to a level of boldness, and you can see examples of that in the groups of people that we're talking about, and the groups of people that we're not. I think of Jason Herrick, Fortune 421. He's always been like, oh yeah, nice shirt. He's always been like an inspiration to me. The story of him and his mom, and just, like really being able to make it work, reinvesting in his business when it makes sense, rewarding himself when it makes sense. Errol down in San Diego. I mean, we're not friends, but I swear to God, the dude knows my name and pours me a shot every time I walk up to his bar. And some of the entrepreneurial stuff that he's doing, some of the entrepreneurial stuff that you're doing. I really think that there is that kind of like fire in everyone, but it's just the people that activate it and are willing to fail are the ones that I like look up to,
And that's, I mean, you have to be willing to fail and keep that enthusiasm, continue to fail, continue to fail, continue to fail, and then get back up and keep going.
Totally. 100%.
Very, very rarely does anybody, hit a home run their first at bat.
Yeah, absolutely. No truer words have ever been spoken. And you don't learn a lot from blinding success.
No.
You don't. You learn a lot from, like, ask Elon, right? You learn from rockets exploding, not rockets making it to space.
Yeah.
Like it is that kind of thing. And I would say that, like, among my life's most like significant decisions, that I have been far more rewarded when that decision brings initial discomfort versus a decision that I kind of know that I have wired tight right out of the gate. And it's like, it's scary. But and the reason why I love the idea of this podcast is it does exist in everyone. There's lots of examples, and the skills gained in the hospitality world are directly transferable.
Thanks, man. And then also, you learn a lot about yourself when your back is against the wall, when you are scared. That's when you can really evolve and show your true, well, what you can really accomplish, what you can really do.
No doubt.
What how long do you think your time frame was when you, like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore, and you started looking for jobs and stuff, and then you finally were able to, like, okay, I'm going to go in and resign?
Like, all up, it was my deprogramming was a 1-year process. I think that I gave hospitality one more fair shot transitioning to a sales role. So, like, I went from core hotel operations to a sales role. So, like, here's what it was. I knew what my days off were, right? So, like, 5 days a week, unless you had, like, a group in and you needed to meet the group contact or something, but, like, a very doable schedule. I knew that, the ability to read people and some of the other things that I had learned along the way was going to be really, really, transferable to a sales role. I walked right into the San Diego sales complex. Another amazing mentor, Donovan Henson, was there. And after our first, like, not interview, but, like, when he was learning what I was into, like, in the first, like, couple of get to know you conversations, he gave me a sales segment that I knew I could excel in, like sports and entertainment, right? And so I was like, here we go. When do I learn how to tie the big knots in my tie? No. I had the best opportunity that I could have possibly scripted to continue on down the hospitality road. And it was really probably only 3 to 6 months from getting in there where I was like, nope, same stuff here, like, and certainly no disrespect to any of the people. It was just not speaking to me at a professional level that I was, like, ready to continue giving my time to, and or I guess being paid for my time too, and that's, it was just really that moment. And I think when, and, I mentioned it before, but I think, like, that reaching out to that support system was super important in those first moments. Like, hey, Tara, my wife, hey, Tara, am I crazy? ... Hey, mom and dad, am I crazy? ... Friends. I was reaching out to a bunch of people, and here's another thing that I would suggest for folks who are contemplating to look at. Like, we all have a career path, no matter what position we're currently in. There is some path, or we have aspirations to become something. And, regardless of how successful or not you are in that position, you can sort of, if you're good at looking in the mirror, you can, or self-assessment, you can kind of see your path. You can kind of see, like, if things play out how I think they could and would, I might be here in X number of years. Then look at those individuals who are in those positions if your job or if your career follows that trajectory. And really ask yourself, like, do you want their life? Do you want their job? Is that something that would, like, bring you happiness? And I'll certainly not get specific on names here, but not everybody that I looked at was someone who I would want that type of life. And, like, to go even a step further, I would be like, it would take hard work and a bit of that opportunity meeting preparation, luck, and a bit of, like, the stars aligning for me to get there after those years. So, like, after all that, if it's not somewhere where you want to be, that might be a really good, call it orange flag, that is waving in front of you to be like, do some self-assessment, do some self-reflection, figure out where your passions are, and figure out how you can meld your passions with your vocation. I promise you two things. It will be, like, self-reflection will bring you a better understanding of yourself, which will bring you a better understanding of where you want to go. And the next thing that I'll tell you is, what's waiting for you in that job, if you do get to meld that passion and vocation, is a shitload of hard work. But it's work that you can easily be passionate about. A quick story, and this sort of fits into what I was just saying, but the last meeting that I was in at the Hilton Sales Complex was your, like, run-of-the-mill sales quarterly or monthly, whatever, sales meeting, where they get everybody in their suits in a room around a table, and they go over, like, how much business was closed, who was prospecting, the person with the lowest got the coffee and the bagels, and the kind of the usual, like, sales corral type meeting. And at that point, I knew that I had already received the job offer, but I hadn't resigned yet, just because of some timing stuff. And I was sitting there and I'm like, man, this really validates why I'm leaving. So cool. Get a little validation. Who doesn't like a little validation from time to time, right? The very first meeting that I had at REI Adventures was a meeting to decide whether we were going to include the foliage that goes on the deck railing of our African safari camps that the giraffes come up and eat, if we were going to include that in the trip price, or if that was going to be an addition when they got there. And talk about double validation. I'm like, oh my God. I was just being embarrassed and grabbing bagels for everybody. And now I'm talking about whether we should include giraffe food in our product. And I'm like, okay, light this firecracker. Let's go.
That's awesome. That's funny. That was actually the next question. Like, how do you feel that day you knew you were going to resign? Like, were you nervous? Were you scared? Were you excited?
Gosh, going back to that, I knew that because the fella that I mentioned earlier, Donovan, because he took a chance on me, and we had a great relationship. I knew that I wanted to, like, do so very, very, very respectfully. So I just asked for some time, asked if we could go get some coffee. So as far as, like, the, F you, you're cool, I'm out, I didn't get that moment, so, like, I didn't get that moment, but I didn't need it. at that moment. I knew that my ship had sailed in that case, and that I was onto this new adventure. I wanted to make sure that I was a great partner to Donovan and the sales organization, to make sure that, I wasn't certainly burning any bridges, but more importantly, like they understood how much I was thankful for the opportunity to provide value to that sales organization. And, I think that, like, in the end, I think he was like, God, that sounds cool. When I really broke down what REI Adventures was, what role I was going to be playing, that I was going to be running a crew again, of people. And, I think that I think he was really happy for me. At least that's how it came across. And let's be honest, I hadn't been there long enough where it was like some big detriment to his sales goals or anything like that. But, in the end, I think he was pretty happy for me. So, much ado about nothing. It wasn't a big thing, but I was excited to get the ball rolling, certainly on my next adventure. By that time, I had already, been up to Seattle once for the interview. My sister lives up here, so like I got to see her life, and ironically, she's a bartender and now a restaurant manager. So, maybe I'll forward this podcast and your podcast to her. But she's with elbow problems and shoulder problems and back problems and feet problems and all this from almost 20 years behind a bar. And I was ready for that next adventure. I was ready to come up and be a little damper up here in Seattle and figure out if I could make it work.
That's awesome. Yeah, it wasn't like you were moving across the street to another venue. You were uprooting your entire life from San Diego to Seattle.
Yeah, and asking my now at this point, Tara's my fiance, and so like asking my fiance to move for my career for the second time. And I think that was, that's another like, ingredient to this cake, right? Which is like trying to, making sure that, you are like respectful and thankful and grateful to the people whom you affect by your decision to move. And that could be the key holding manager at the bar that has all the tribal information. And then that person feels guilty because all that tribal information leaves with she or he, right? And so it's like, I think that could, like, connection to the people that you work with and your impact to the ongoing operation and organization of your venue are like the two biggest pieces of that gravitational pull that keep people in hospitality. I don't want to leave my team. I don't want to leave them in a lurch, and I don't want to destroy this small business by taking all of this tribal information with me, hoping that the various levels of present owner can then teach the next level of individuals. Because if I leave, what's going to happen to all these servers and bartenders and barbacks and bus people and cooks and dishwashers and all these and security and all these people that count on me to do this every day? Those are the two big reasons. So fortunately, professionally, organizationally, I didn't have that pull. So like, I think maybe the 6 or 8 months of being in that team maybe was a benefit. Maybe I would have felt different if I was still in a front office. And then just a willing partner in my then fiance, now wife, to say, let's do it. Let's be bold. And now she's in the tech recruiting, high tech recruiting. So she went from an agency, and now she's a senior recruiting manager for Amazon. So like she's also seen, like, she took that jump, she took that step, not from hospitality, but from an agency to a corporate role. And she's watched her scope and influence grow in one of the largest organizations in the world.
That's amazing. Yeah, both of you guys talk about power couple, Amazon and REI. That's huge.
Certainly for the Northwest, right? I guess we could be like Costco and Starbucks or something, maybe or Microsoft and Starbucks or whatever. But yeah, pretty Northwesty for sure.
I love it. What's some advice you give to other people that are looking to get out of the industry? I know you already talked. I mean, you got a lot of great advice, but it was like final thoughts.
Yeah. Um, you know, do your homework. The one thing that is like a pitfall in this in a journey like this with someone is like you let your passion lead too much, right? And you're like, well, I'm not passionate about my current position, and so therefore I'm just going to leap out and let the stars take their course. I would not recommend that, right? I don't care how much the wolf moon powers your crystals and how much essential oils you're huffing. Like, that is not going to help you like get to your next. That'll help you maybe like broaden your horizons or your mind and like think about your passion, as somebody that's done, some yoga and some deep thought stuff. It's that does help. Meditation does help, but it's not good. Like, do your homework. There's pre-work in this. Make sure that you're testing the assumption of what your passion is against the people that know you best. And that's that support system thing, right? So I would just make sure that somebody's like, that they do self-reflection. They recognize that they're not the best version of themselves in their current role. They do a little bit of visioning out on what they want to be or how they want their life to look and be. Figure out if there's a significant or serendipitous even alignment between where their passion is and the kind of life and person they want to be. And then start again. Test against your partner, test against your support system. Make sure that how you're thinking and perceiving yourself is how the people around you that you trust and love perceive this next step. If those things align, then you start like the tangible work, like, making sure like, resumes up. Like, that's the stuff that people like jump to real quick. I think that actually goes second or third. And then you tailor that to where that you're going. The next thing that I would really suggest is if it's something like way, way outside, hospitality, like, make sure that you like research the associations. So like in that world. So like, for instance, for me, I went out and I became a member of the Adventure Travel Trade Association. And I started combing their resources. I started getting contacts. I started making calls about folks who are my peers now and asking them about what a day in the life looks like. Because you could get into something and it's out of the frying pan right into the fire. And if you don't do your due diligence, you're going to start like thinking that, hey, maybe my passion isn't what it is. Maybe my support system doesn't know me as well as I do. You start second guessing yourself. And so like, for me, it's not the most romantic answer, but do a little bit of requisite work before you like hop right into the fire.
I agree 100%. You have to. And it's okay to do it while you're still in hospitality, you're still working, you have plenty of free time. Try different things. Try out, do you try something here, you don't like it, try something there, and you can
make it a hobby first. Make it a hobby first, right? Like when we get into a hobby, you're a mountain biker, right? So, you get on your mountain bike and, that's your hobby. And then all of a sudden the bike that's underneath you doesn't meet your skill level, right? And you gotta sell your bike and get a new bike because it's a bike that you need to like, to get to your next in your mountain biking skills.
I just had an upgrade.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago.
And the same thing is true for your professional career. You can make another career your hobby. And guess what? That will be paid back to you immediately when the skills that you need to demonstrate in an interview are coming out of you and they look at your resume and they're like, wait, you're not in our business. You're not in our industry. And then you get to say something like, oh yeah, but for the last 3 months, I've been a member of the Adventure Travel Trade Association, and I've really enjoyed their learning, their learning module on ... Right. And so like, and that's the kind of thing where they're like, the interviewer's like, holy crap, dude really wants this. This person really wants to like give their best work to our organization. Right. And I think it's hyper important. And if this is truly last thoughts, just one last cosign to like, that fortune favors the bold. Truly, that like, I have never made a bold decision that I didn't learn something from or create a greater amount of value in my life. And that's really just that encouragement.
I love it. Now, real quick before we go, let's talk a little bit about REI. So REI Travel. So I didn't even know that was a thing. So we'll put a link to it at the bottom of this video as well.
Yeah. So, for those that don't know, REI, the cooperative, is an organization that was established in 1938 here in Seattle, and here it was like 28 people realized that here in the United States they couldn't get great climbing equipment, that all the climbing equipment was made in Switzerland, Austria, Germany, and Italy, the Alps, right? Specialized, the ice picks, the belay devices, the good harnesses, like that really didn't exist meaningfully in the United States in the late 30s. And so these 28 individuals banded together, cooperatively put in their money, and then Lloyd and Mary Anderson, the first and second members of REI, they went out, they would fly out twice a year, buy a bunch of stuff cooperatively, and bring it back so they could use that gear. So that's a great story I had to get out first. Flash forward 80 and change years, we've got 140 stores nationwide. We're certainly the largest seller of like high-end core outdoor gear in the world. So there's that piece. Well, then about 30 years ago, there was a pilot program, and it would be called REI Adventures starting in about 1987. But it was really like, okay, we sell great gear. We have classes to teach people how to use that gear. The next thing is, let's get a group of these people that know how to use that gear and let them do their preferred activity in some iconic destinations around the world. And so that's really how REI Adventures, the concept, came to be. Flash forward, like I said, to 2019, we welcomed almost 16,000, socially and climate, involved travelers out into these iconic destinations around the world. 46 countries, all 7 continents, 186 trips, I think, right now. And we're chomping at the bit. We're ready to go to start welcoming people back to travel. That's for sure.
That's awesome, dude. I remember seeing some of those like trips and travel things and stuff. I actually took a class, like you mentioned, to work on my mountain bike, probably a decade ago at REI.
Yeah. Like either basic or intermediate bike mechanics, right?
Yep.
Yeah. No, it's a great organization. They've really, they've taught me a lot about what it means to be like conscious, like kind of like making sure that like you're making decisions for like 20 and 30 years in the future, not for 1 and 2 years in the future. Working for a company that does not have stockholders, has members, is a completely different dynamic. You're not beholden to Wall Street to make your quarterly profit earnings. I mean, hell, REI gives away, 60% of its profits each year. And that's something that a lot of people don't know. So, well, members know. So a portion of that is the dividends. So we get 10% of what you spend at REI, we give right back to you in your dividend each year.
I remember.
Right. Yep. A portion of it goes to our philanthropic arm. So, mostly right now, it's like in the climate realm, but more recently, and as a veteran, something that I've become passionate about is healing in the outdoors. So I don't know if it hit your news feed, but it's the Veterans Accelerating Healing in the Outdoors Act just passed basically unanimously through both houses of Congress, and President Trump signed it into law. And it really is to give a couple of $2 billion to research, like legitimate scientific research on how outdoors can help in healing trauma or post-traumatic stress. And, you know, it's something that, like, I can't even imagine another organization that I've worked for in the past that would spend, you know, a good chunk of its profits making the world around it better. I mean, it's now it's sort of old hat because it's, you know, it's 8 years, but really, like, that kind of benevolence is something that they've taught me, that it's not all about the bottom line sometimes. Sometimes it's about helping people.
I love that, man. Hey, dude, it's so good to catch up with you. I'm so stoked for everything you've done. And I mean, just seeing you, it's good, what, 8 years since I've seen you.
Seriously, you're looking good, buddy.
You see all these grays. This is the last 4.5 years of hospitality did these to me.
Yeah, I see nothing. I see nothing. I see nothing. You don't look a day older than when we saw each other last.
Just for men works wonders.
Well, yeah, man, we'll have to. How about let's make a deal? Let's catch up in San Diego one of these days.
Absolutely. Actually, I got family in Seattle too, so I need to make a trip up there. I was up there once for Thanksgiving about 2 years ago for 48 hours. Never been back, and I've always wanted to go back. So once all this travel stuff is, you know, a thing of the past, I'll definitely be up there.
Well, you have my number, my man. I'll show you where the sun shines above the clouds on these beautiful mountains.
Awesome. I love it. All right, brother. Take care. Thank you.
Sounds good. Talk to you soon.